Hello, I am Denise Pratt on behalf of the Bahamas Alzheimer's Association. I have been told to everything there is a season. I have also been told that seasons change. Well, there's no place where this truth rings more prominently than when we consider the aging process. The Bahamas, like many countries around the world, has an aging population that is concerned not only about growing old gracefully, but also thriving as we age. The Bahamas Alzheimer's Association is an organization that has taken up the mantle to provide support to Bahamians to help them successfully navigate through the various challenges that they face, especially as they assist their loved ones with dementia and Alzheimer's. Reverend William Higgs, who is a director of the association, agrees that love will keep persons encouraged and motivated in the midst of the challenges of dealing with a family member who is struggling with Alzheimer's. His mother, who died just 6 weeks before her 91st birthday, had Alzheimer's.
My mother had Alzheimer's. For probably the last 8 or 9 years of her life, it was very definite and very obvious. She lived by herself for a while. We realized that wasn't working well. We brought her to Nassau from Spanish Wells. Wasn't too happy in Nassau. At that age, most of her friends were gone. She didn't really get out much. So then after a year, we moved to the Abaco, where she lived with my sister. And my sister did the bulk of the caregiving. But after Hurricane Dorian, she had to move to Nassau, and she ended up with me for the last probably 6 months of her life. She'd lived a long time and a full life, but those last years were difficult because what happens is through dementia and especially Alzheimer's, the people that we think we know become someone else. Their personality seems to change, a lot of things are different. Some things are a throwback to childhood, and some of that we spotted and realized, but some things are totally new and unexpected. But alongside my mother, my father-in-law also developed Alzheimer's in the last maybe 3 years of his life. So, of course, I helped my wife. They only had daughters in their family, so as a son-in-law, I stepped up a bit and helped her with him. So I've had it from both sides, I guess. My mother indicated herself back at the beginning of all this. She would often comment that her forgettery is getting better than her memory. And that she would admit many times she forgot things, or she couldn't remember where she put something, or she forgot she left the stove on, and everything cooked out and the pot burned, and she'd forget things like that. She forgot about her medication, so we had to get a little box and organize things. So from those beginnings where she herself recognized something wasn't the same, and then it deteriorated, and obviously she didn't recognize, couldn't express a lot of it in later years. But it was just became more and more obvious the more time you spent around, which is why we couldn't let her live alone, because you never knew. So this was 8 or 9 years into her last part of her life, so probably somewhere close to 80, or a little over 80. So up till then, she had a sharp memory, and she was an avid reader. She, in Spanish Wells, she edited and collected and wrote devotions for the church newsletter there. I think we had to admit right away, because she identified some of this, so you couldn't really ignore it and say, well, you don't know what you're talking about. Of course she knows, she understood. And then it got to the point where she didn't so much. But we realized at the beginning that, there was this degeneration of the memory and the associations and the connections that you make. We'd hear her asking the same question 4 or 5 times in a 15-minute telephone conversation.
I was able to speak with the Bahamas' former Attorney General, Mrs. Alison Maynard Gibson, and her brother, David Maynard, who told me that they believe that the realization that a family's matriarch or patriarch is suffering from Alzheimer's can provide an opportunity for family to band together.
We found it as a family important to step up and operate as a team made it a lot easier. Some persons were busier at different times than others, and so we all held our, like playing dominoes, held our man, held it for each other, and found that in so doing, it made it easy for each other, as well as it made it smooth for mommy or daddy. Because the last thing that we wanted either of them to feel was that they were being a burden. And I know that speaking to friends, as well as our parents, that as they get older, they have set the way for us to have our families and go forth, and want us to fly and be free. And the last thing that they want to do, and it's such, to me, I think, in their minds, that when you turn back and have to help them, that they are being a burden. And as persons who have given us so very much in our journey, both from infancy to maturity and continuing every day of my life. My parents were a part of my life. The last thing that it is, or could ever be, is a burden.
The different people in families, and it was our family as well, different people come to the realization at different stages that mommy or daddy is getting older and they need help. And so the whole beauty of working together as a team, as David has said, is that actually we get to support each other as well. We can be patient and loving towards the parent who we want to demonstrate how much we love. But we can also be patient and loving with each other as we together, as the family themselves come together with the realization that mom and dad are getting older and need help and need support. And it's a privilege to give that help and support back to them, by the way. And the one thing that I would like to add to what David said and to the question that you're asking is that you'll actually find that in coming together and loving mom and dad, it helps you also. You feel privileged, and it's so important to give mom and dad that love. You come together and you find qualities in your siblings that you never even saw before.
There comes a point where you yourself have to accept this is what it is. And in that time, you mentioned the aha. So in that time, when you get to that place and you have the aha that this is what it is, I just love these people so very much. But I need to move beyond and do the best that I can, facing what it actually is. And in so doing, I'll be able to better care for them.
On behalf of the Bahamas Alzheimer's Association, I am Denise Pratt. It was my pleasure.